Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And there's a pretty good amount of news to report today. What we're going to cover is Trump saying he had arranged direct negotiations with Iran for Saturday. This is true and it's not true. The Iranians are denying this, and the negotiations that Iran is saying are going to happen are somewhat a little different. Still negotiations, as far as I could tell, and what they're going to do is meet in Oman on Saturday, and the Americans are going to sit in one room, the Iranians are going to sit in another room, and they're going to use, it's going to happen in Oman, they're going to use Oman people to go back and forth from one room to another. So Trump is still threatening force and war on them. And I think for a few reasons, Iran's going to go. Not because they are going to throw the towel in. I mean, what this would require is Iran removing or destroying their nuclear facilities where they're making material allegedly for nuclear bombs. And they'd have to close the facilities, seal them up, destroy them, things to this effect. In other words, what Trump would do with bombings, they will have to do with their own measures, not bombing. And the chances of this are, so low. I mean, it's not even serious. Then I'm going to discuss a breakdown of how Iran will attack the American warships and the Diego Garcia base if they get to that point, which I think they will. And this is a rather deep dive with a lot of new information that I haven't discussed before that I picked up. And it's rather shocking. I mean, when you listen to it, you're going to realize America's going to lose warships. It's inevitable. I don't think Iran has much of anything they can do to bring down American planes and things like this. I don't think so. So Iran has the ability, as I'll show you, and I'm quite sure you'll agree, to definitely damage or sink several of the American warships. The Carl Vinson aircraft carrier group is now in the Indian Ocean, and they're, within strike range from launching aircraft to hitting Iran. But that's not highly relevant today. It will in a few days, but I think by Thursday or Friday they'll be in theater with the other American warships, which will be someplace around the Sea of Oman to the Indian Ocean, probably right about this, where Indian Ocean meets Sea of Oman. The Persian Gulf, as you leave it, it's only got one way out on the east. As you leave it, you go into the Sea of Oman, and then you travel a bit and you get into the Indian Ocean. Okay? That's where the ships will congregate. And it's rather shocking when you see the breakdown of the weapons that Iran's going to deploy at the same time. And then we'll have a brief discussion on sleeper agents. It's expected that Iran will launch sleeper agents around the world. More weapons are coming into the Middle East now on cargo planes. It has not stopped. Now they seem to be depleting anti-missile systems and perhaps other weapons out of South Korea Remember, they don't have to go to the South Koreans and say, "Give us the weapons we gave you." They have a military base with 28,000 or more soldiers in South Korea, so they appear to be stripping the weapons from that base to what extent I don't know. Now, they did this in Ramstein, Germany, which means NATO is not going to be able to rely on American weapons to the extent they had, let's say a month ago. And now he's doing it in the Asia Pacific theater. So Trump is getting real dedicated to this Middle East. China has started a digital currency, not BRICS, just China, and we'll go through that. And it's already opened, just China, trading in the RMB, the renminbi, not using any other currencies. And they've got quite a few banks and countries on board, and it's using not the SWIFT system, their own system, and it takes less than 10 seconds to get the money in your account. The receiver gets it in less than 10 seconds, where SWIFT is 3 or 4 days. That's a big development. And then we'll talk about Netanyahu and Trump and free trade with Israel. And we'll talk about Gaza. And then we're going to talk about what the church world believes is happening with the wars, comparing it with the Bible prophecies that they ignore. And they do ignore many Bible prophecies, and why they ignore them. And which is basically they transplant them into Gog and Magog, and why you cannot do that, why the prophecies show you that you cannot do that. So we're going to have a pretty good live stream today. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream. And then put my posts up and waiting for people to come in. I like to tell you what I'm talking about in the live stream before I do it. Make sure we got a live stream. So I don't like to be like these other people that, tease you and bait you and tempt you. The USS Truman just got hit. This thing keeps telling me that there's some sort of water in the connection here with the charging cable, and I don't know why it would say that. The cable was in the other iPad all night, the Samsung, and they had nothing happened. Yes, China stopped shipping some rare minerals, metals, whatever, and there's a tariff fight going on, and China put a 34% tariff on American goods, and then Trump said if they keep that on, they don't take it off, he's going to put an extra 50% on China goods. So there's, a genuine tariff war, and the stock market's in bad shape and everything else. Okay, I'm going to put my posts up very quickly, and people will still be coming in. If you don't like it and you're going to leave, you're going to leave. What am I going to do? You don't care. I'm also going to show you a few good ways to convince the people that cling to this. Everything revolves around Ezekiel 38 and 39, Gog and Magog. And I'm going to show you how to set their belief systems aside using the prophecies that are highly relevant to these present times now. Russia understands the bandwidth of a radar. Yeah, it all depends what Russia does and what China does and what North Korea does. At the very minimum, I think they're going to give weapons to Iran. At the maximum, they're going to send warships and aircraft to Iran, but we have not seen that. And time is getting ready for it to open up the war. So I'm not too certain that we're going to see, I think, very covert giving of missiles to Iran and maybe some other weapons, drones, I don't know what, but we're not going to see Chinese and Russian warships and troops and aircraft going to the Middle East. I don't think we haven't seen it yet. I'm not expecting it. All right, I'm going to put my email address up and we'll get going. I think Russia, if they're going to, well, I'll cover that with you when I get going. Russia and China may take this opportunity to attack North Korea, South Korea, China, Taiwan, Japan, and Russia, perhaps Poland or Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania. There's a chance because they will interpret this as a golden opportunity to attack these other locations. It would be a very, very bold move for them, but you don't know. They all want to get rid of America because America dictates to them and pushes them around, and they have a different plan for the world other than Trump. And their plans don't revolve heavily around Israel. They're very interested in controlling energy, oil, and so forth, and not having sanctions. And, they got a different agenda than the Muslim terrorist states. Oh, they would probably be very happy without it in Israel, but it's not at the top of their list or anything. Uh-oh, I pinned the wrong thing up. I'll take it off and put the right one up. How do I get it off? No, that's not working. There should be a way to remove the pin. Oh, I think I know the way. Just put the other one up. I think I got it. Yeah, I got it. All right, let me check the chat. Kabbalah is like paying attention to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm Old and New Testament. That's what we are here. I don't pay attention to the Kabbalah nor the Talmud. I read a good piece of the Talmud many, many years ago. It makes no sense. It contradicts the Bible and it makes no sense on its own either. All right, I'm going to do some praise, being an Old and New Testament site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So I was having a cup of tomato juice, if that's okay with you. All right. So before I forget, Netanyahu, of course, we all know, was with the White House with Trump. And Netanyahu had a proposal: Israel taxes imports from any country if they're over $75 in value at 17%. And they came up with a proposal to have a free trade agreement with America where Israeli goods would go into America with no tariff, and American goods would come into Israel with no tariff, which would be great for Israelis because we can buy things from Amazon, not food. Some things you could buy, like beef jerky. I mean, you can't get much food. And a lot of items in Amazon shipped to Israel with no shipping charges if it's over $49 combined value. So this would have Israelis buying from Amazon like crazy. Because if you put an order in for $100, they charge you 17% tax plus the 17% on the shipping cost. But if it's $75 or less, it has to be below $75.01. Then they don't charge you anything. If this goes through, it'll hurt the retailers in Israel, which do price fixing and gouge the people. And they have a habit of flooding Israel with the cheapest crap they could find anywhere in the world. And it's a shame, but that's how it is. So Trump didn't seem to go for it at first, but we'll see what happens. Netanyahu was saying he wants to set an example for the world. Maybe he never should have said that. And I just toss it aside like rotten gefilte. I don't know why you're talking like that, but if you're talking about Kabbalah, it's nonsense thing. It's essentially witchcraft. No, Bezos likes selling to Israel. It's pretty easy. I never bought from Temu, but you get the 17% tax problem with Temu. And they also drive you crazy. If you ever buy a large item, like, of anything, let's say you were going to buy a massage chair or something like that, right? Just to come up with something. And it was over $1,000. Oh, you got to hire a customs broker. And the shipping companies usually do that service for you. You got to pay them, and then it's got to be inspected and approved. Now, if you bought, let's say, a nerd item like a table, I don't know if it would have to be what they would go through, but if you were doing a massage chair, well, now they want to know if it's safe and goes to the science people. It's a nightmare. That might get done away with and it might not. I don't know. I really don't know. I do believe Netanyahu was trying to push this thing through, and he probably will keep working on Trump. And Trump was kind of leaving the door open. I just got to check the messages, because if you don't, you can miss the delivery. I got a delivery of some supplements today. It should be here today. They're not really supplements. I got a delivery of apple cider vinegar in capsules, so you could swallow one or two of those and it dissolves in your stomach and you don't have the taste. I did that with olive oil, and I got more of that coming in. I love doing it. It's extra virgin olive oil, and I like taking the olive oil that way, because if you just put it in your mouth, it's greasy. And if you put it on something, then you got to eat something with it, like you can soak it in bread or something. Anyway, so I'm going to try the apple cider vinegar that way. If there was anything you could bet on, including the stock market, it's rigged. All right. If anybody wants prayer requests, like you probably get a few hundred people praying for you, just you could put it up in the live stream in the chat, or you could send it to me an email. My email address is in the chat towards the top-ish. It's Israel Giving, one word with the digit 7 at Gmail. Israel Giving, one word with the number 7 at gmail.com. Okay. And I do check the email during the thing. Now, we do have a small amount of prayer requests today. And I got to find it. Boy, this thing keeps telling me I got some sort of liquid in here, which I seriously doubt I do. It's been doing that a lot. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I'm really nervous about this iPad. Seems to me if you buy iPads, you got to throw them away every year and get a new one. This one's probably 2.5, 3 years old. So I don't buy them anymore. I go Samsung. The iPads are terrible for problems with the electricity. I'm not sure we did this prayer request, but we'll do it again just to make sure. ES Echo Sierra, ES Echo Sierra, in the hospital, a heart condition. Pray for healing for ES in the hospital with a heart condition. We got a prayer request for NV Normandy Victor, NV Normandy Victor, NV. Prayer request for healing from torn rotator cuff healing and pain reduction is the prayer request. LN Lima Normandy, LN Lima Normandy. Pray for the Lord heals several issues known to the Lord. For LN, the Lord would heal several issues that are known to the Lord. And also the sister of LN would speak to the family again. Apparently, this person's estranged herself from the family. Okay, that's it for the prayer requests. Questions are welcome in the live stream, and I will deal with them. Let's talk about what China did. China opened up a digital currency money transfer system like SWIFT. It's not for, it's for bank transfers. It's really country to country. It's not for retail, as far as I know now. But I think it's involving companies also. I think they have about 2,000 companies in on this. They could all be in China. I don't know. No, forget the 2,000. That's something else. That was the market crashing. Sorry. The People's Bank of China just connected its digital RMB, that's the name of the Chinese currency, renminbi, to 10 Asian and 6 Middle Eastern nations, covering 38% of the global trade in dollar amount. So they hooked up Middle Eastern oil selling countries. Iran, I'm sure, would be one of them. Oman, probably another. And they didn't name them. It'll come out, though. We'll find out who they are. Taiwan might have joined this, maybe. I don't know. I doubt it. They're posting the money in the person's bank account in less than 10 seconds, where Swift is 3 or 4 days. That's because the banks sit on the money, I believe. Stocks are in bad shape now. So this is not anywhere near as threatening to the United States as BRICS is. Not even close, okay? But it's, I think, predominantly a way for China to avoid any sanctions from America and trade oil without using the US dollar. China also liquidated a couple of days ago 10-year T-bills, US Treasury bonds, and used the money to buy gold. So they see the writing on the wall. Iceland had 550 earthquakes in 24 hours. This is news from Monday. Today's Tuesday. So it's very recent. And that was an earthquake swarm. And it's not lightweight. And as I've told you, volcano eruptions are up. That's called pillars of smoke in the end times prophecies. Like Luke 21, Mark 13, Matthew 24, Luke 17. And they're up, and the earthquakes are up, and the tornadoes and the storms in America are up. The continuing whirlwind of the Lord, which is a storm or a tempest, is a better translation. And it falls on the head of the wicked. So it's not just the United States. Trump is saying that they'll proceed with the war if the talks with Iran on Saturday are not productive enough. And I'm rather certain the talks might be blown up because of direct or implied threats that if Iran doesn't cooperate with America as America sees fit, there's going to be a war on Iran. I think they'll blow the negotiations. They could be going to the negotiations because their stock market is in bad shape, their currency is down badly, and they're trying to see if they could jack things up. And also, they want to make it look good to their people. Could you imagine how the civilians in Iran feel knowing what's coming? That's assuming they have internet. If they don't have internet, I don't know what they're going to hear. I doubt they're going to hear the truth. Every time I try to get anywhere with Iranian social media, I get nothing. I get, soccer game scores and, nonsense. I can't get any reasonable news out of any of their social media. Translating it from the Farsi to English, I get nothing. It's a waste of time to go through their social media in reality. I don't know anybody that gets anything out of their social media either. So, 3 Iranian sources told the New York Times, and I think Reuters too, that Iran and the U.S. plan to meet in Oman on Saturday for indirect talks. And Trump saying they're direct. So he might blow the negotiations if they get there and they find out that Iran's people are in one room, they're in another, and they're using foot messengers in Oman to convey the messages. I don't know what Trump will do. Iran might be trying to buy time, some reason with this, and see if they could drag this out for a few weeks, which Hamas does, and Hezbollah doesn't really do this. The Houthis don't, but Iran might be taking this path. Remember with Zelensky of Ukraine on 2 occasions, Trump said, "Oh, we got the minerals deal in the bag," and then it blew up. Zelensky said, "No, I'm not signing it." So this is probably another thing like that. It appears that they're not direct talks. They're close to direct talks, but not quite direct talks. And I see no reason why Iran would, agree to it, because Trump's going to want a position on their nuclear plants that's not going to be, okay, we'll just close them down and forget about them. And then at a point in time down the road, they reopen them, and then Trump's got to deal with it all over again. I don't know how many billions of dollars America's spending with 30 warships in the area, not counting the Carl Vinson and her escort vessels, and hundreds of aircraft, and there's 58,000 soldiers in the Middle East, and all these container ships. It must be high in the billions, and the war hasn't even started. So I don't think this ceasefire is going to go anywhere. Iran's going to say, we have the right to build nuclear energy, and Trump's going to say, you're trying to build nuclear bombs, and, it's not going to go well. See, I think the problem is, that biblically speaking, Iran's drinking the cup of the wrath of the Lord, and they're delusional, and they're probably believing their own lies. They might damage America somewhat, but America's going to obliterate them. And I'll go through a prophecy that explains that the churches don't teach. So some do, but most don't. Trump could be waiting for the Carl Vinson aircraft carrier to get here, and that might be what Trump is up to in reality with this. Because he might want to have 2 of them here. The Harry Truman is pretty far away from Iran. It's in the Red Sea, northwards, I believe. No, it's down south by Saudi Arabia. And I think he wants the other one to be around the Persian Gulf. So it could be why he's playing this idiot game with Iran. So unless Trump is setting Iran up for a preemptive attack, which I doubt, I don't think much will happen until after Saturday. The IRGC Iranian soldiers in Yemen have left Yemen and returned to Iran. This is another thing. First of all, we don't know if all of them came. And this is a ploy to try to convince the world that the Houthis in Yemen are acting on their own, which is not true. It's a proxy of Iran. They support them. So let's get into how will Iran attack the Diego Garcia base, where the stealth bombers, where they have about 9 or 10 B-2s. They have, I believe, 12 B-52s, and they have at least 20 refueling tankers. Iran will use a combination of many weapons, and we're going to go through them right now. But let's do the countdown on what they have. They have a minimum of 1,500 go-fast boats. These are 60 to 90-foot boats. They're they're private boats that sell to civilians that go fast. Some of these can go 60 to 80 miles an hour in the water. Probably most of them go 50 or 60 miles an hour. The ones that go that fast, very, very fast, I don't think are highly suitable for what Iran's interested in. Their gasoline consumption alone would be horrific. So 1,500 or more of these, okay? And they recently put 250 in the water by the Straits of Hormuz at one time. If America goes to attack these go-fast boats, which they will have to, they're going to have to use a conglomeration of weapons to attack this boat, predominantly aircraft. Hitting them with ship-to-ship missiles is pretty tough because they're very agile and fast. The PT boats in World War II were this way. I think they were about 90 feet. They were able to sleep sailors. They had a kitchen. I don't believe these boats have that capability. But they're not the PT boats. The PT boats were something a lot more elaborate and different than. I'm going to unplug this and see what happens. There was a different thing in a different era. Their boats can shoot anti-ship missiles, ship-to-ship anti-ship missiles. They put torpedoes on the deck of the boat. The boat's got a point in the front. And they aim the boat at the target ship. And the torpedoes are propelled into the water, probably by compressed air. And when they get in the water, the prop starts turning, off a battery. And they probably go about 60 miles an hour. The most advanced torpedoes, which I doubt they have, but they might, run about 100 miles an hour. World War II torpedoes were 60 miles an hour. That's pretty quick. And probably a 2,000-pound warhead, minimum 1,000. So it will be very damaging to any kind of ship if it gets hit by a 2,000-pound warhead. And I expect they probably have wire guidance on these missiles. So there's a wire that unravels while the missile goes, and they can control the path of the missile because they got direct contact with it. And the missile's underwater, so sending radio signals to it is probably not a great idea because you got to get the signal under the water, even though the torpedo may not be more than 12 or 18 feet under the water or something like that. Getting the signal under several feet of water at a distance of a half a mile or a mile, it could be not easy, So they probably are using wire guided, which means they could hit a big ship. Big ship can't get out of the way. A big ship has to destroy the go-fast boat. It's rather difficult because the phalanx guns on the aircraft carrier, which are in the rear, the front, and the left and the right side, are shooting 20 millimeter rounds, but they're designed to attack the air. So if the boat's close to them, the guns don't point down like this. So the phalanx would work at a distance, but now you're trying to hit a boat going 60, 70 miles an hour in the water that's not big, and it's agile, and it's doing weaving. It's not going in a linear direction, it's zigzagging, so it's rather difficult to hit a small vessel doing that. Now, a pilot in an F-15 and F-16, I doubt they would use F-35s or F-22s, but they could use the A-10 Warthog, would go after the boats with radar control. But how do you go after the boat if they got 250 in the water? This is a very difficult question. Anti-ship missiles would probably prove to be minimally effective. Spraying at the boats with a very portable 50 caliber would probably work, but the 50 caliber is really not something you're going to use out 3 miles. It's really for a mile or so. Maybe you can put it out a mile and a quarter or something like that. The 20 millimeter guns can go out 5 miles. That would be the gun of choice. And they have some of those on the warships, but they're usually in a turret and they're, sealed up when they're being used or in combat. So I don't think you're going to have these guns pointed down at the water close to the boats. It's a problem, guys. Swarm attacks is going to be the key method of Iran. So, don't think that the go-fast boats are likely to be coming by themselves. Okay? There's going to be a lot of stuff with it. Drones will be launched simultaneously. Anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, all sorts of stuff, guys. We're going to get through it. They're also going to be laying naval mines, sea mines, SEA mines. And they're going to use the mines. Iran has a bunch of submarines, maybe a dozen or maybe 15 even, or 18, I don't know. Some of them are probably not very operational. They recently acquired a handful of these things from North Korea. These are small miniature submarines, which means they're harder to hit. Thinking. Iran has stealth warships. They're how stealthy they are compared to the American warships is, I have not been able to find any comparisons. I didn't really look hard. Maybe I expect they're probably somewhat stealthy, not as good as America. But I can assure you that China and possibly North Korea had a hand in helping them develop these, maybe Russia as well. And how stealthy these things are, I'm not sure, but to some extent, they're going to be stealthy and they're hard. I understand the catamaran hull design makes it hard for radar to pick it up. In other words, it has a double hull. So I need to explain this to you. So the bottom of a boat normally is, it's shaped like this. It's one big solid. With a catamaran, you have two bottoms of the boat shaped like a torpedo, if you will. More like, a pontoon or something, but it goes the length of the whole boat. And there's big airspace in between these two bottoms of the boat. And the deck extends to the sides beyond where these two platforms are. So it messes with radar because it's not a solid mass. Okay? And the deck is built on top of these pontoons, and then it goes up from there. They probably have, one deck up, and then they probably have a control tower and, stuff like that, right? These boats have the ability to launch anti-ship missiles. They have a helicopter pad, so they could probably deploy one or two helicopters. They got some Cold War era Cobra attack copters they could use, which could still be dangerous, but probably easily taken down. But they have missile launch capability, anti-ship missile and stuff like that. But this is actually, they have a pod of 6 anti-ship missiles that fire at once. So that's a small swarm attack, but a big headache. In addition, these boats can launch go-fast boats out of the hull. They have a crane, and they position the go-fast boat by the edge of the launching platform, which is inside the boat. They pick it up with a crane and lower it in the water. In early World War II, they used to build planes for helicopters were not highly developed back then, so they were building planes for destroyers and cruisers and, different kinds of ships. So they could put aircraft up in the air that would be able to go 100 or 200 miles away from where the ship was and look for threats like enemy ships, right? There were propeller planes and they were seaplanes with pontoons. So the way they worked is they were taken off the destroyer or battleship with a crane, and they were lowered in the water. And then the pilot would do a taxi in the water because it was a seaplane, and then take off. And when it was time to come home, he would go back to where the aircraft carrier was and land as close as he could to it. And then I imagine they sent a power boat out there to, put a rope on the plane and tow it back to the boat where a crane could pick it up and bring it back and put it on the deck of the boat. They usually have 2 such planes. My father was an aeronautical engineer in World War II, and he worked on it with a team building one of these seaplanes. He told me they built a really, really good one. When I was a kid, he had plans that I believe were, of course, declassified. We're talking in the 50s now, of enemy aircraft, and he used to work and build balsa wood aircraft with me. and cover it with this special paper and put a chemical on it called dope, and they were rubber band powered. And we built quite a few of those, and he had the plans of the enemy planes, from World War II and even planes from before. And but America got away from that and went into aircraft carriers much heavier than these putting the planes in the ground. But they did have some of them. He also worked on missiles later on in the Cold War, early Cold War. He worked on the Nike missile, I know that. Those plans and information I never had. He just told me after it was over by some years that he worked on the Nike missile years ago. So anyway, this is not a new trick with, putting things in the water, but putting go-fast boats in the water is a twist on an old theme, and it can be rather effective. So how would this work? They would use these catamaran warships to stealthily get as close to American warships as they could without getting detected. They've probably probed the American naval radar with their with these stealthy boats to see when they get picked up. So they probably have a decent idea how much they can get away with and how close they can get. So the idea would be to putting some Worcestershire sauce in my tomato juice. So they would try to get as close as they can to the American warships while maintaining stealth, and then they would launch the go-fast boats out of the hull. I imagine, what could they possibly carry? 4, 5? They're not going to carry 20, but they have more than one of these stealth warships. They've got at least a handful, I think 6, or they might have 10. I don't have an exact number. I don't think Iran wants anybody to know. I'm pretty sure the Americans know, and Israel knows. So these warships would get as close as they could, then launch the go-fast boats. That would, if you had a few of these warships, you'd have a reasonable swarm of go-fast boats coming at, let's say, an aircraft carrier. That's the mother lode. That's what they want to get. The idea that Iran is after here is to stop the amount of aircraft or reduce the amount of aircraft attacking Iran. It is not believed that they have any real viable method of preventing the American planes from bombing the daylights out of them. They really don't. There's a lot of stealth aircraft in the air, will be in the air, American. And once these stealth aircraft are in the air, Iran can't shoot them down, as far as I know, and I think I know correctly. But when these aircraft are on the base in Diego Garcia, or on an aircraft carrier, or on land in another base in the Middle East, they can be destroyed. They're not stealth when they're sitting on the ground. Okay? So Iran will combine a multitude, and I'm not finished, they got more weapons, of these weapons together to swarm attack the American defenses. The use of these stealth catamaran warships is very dangerous to the American warships. And then they'll deploy, probably not hundreds, but it may be able to deploy one of 12 or 15 or 20 or something of these go-fast boats to come at the same time, firing torpedoes and anti-ship missiles. This is a bad threat to the American warships. Now it gets worse. They also have container ships, we don't know how many, that have been modified to fire missiles. So they have containers stacked maybe 4, 5, 6 high. Each container has usually a double missile launcher, 2 missile launchers. When the time comes, they open the top of the container electrically. You go, whoop, and then the missile launchers pop up with preloaded missiles and they fire. Then they would have to remove the empty container, probably with a crane or some forklift of a sort or something, get it off the container beneath it so it can open its top and fire missiles, and just keep doing this and firing as many anti-ship missiles at the American fleet that they can muster up. Okay. Now, the Iranians have also built container ships to be drone carriers. One of them actually has an elevated ramp runway, like a Chinese or a French aircraft carrier. And they don't have the cables to propel the boat off the deck of the aircraft carrier at great speed. The Americans seem to have a monopoly on that. So the ramp goes up, I don't know, maybe 50 feet. And when the plane leaves the ramp, it's much higher from the water than it would be if it was using an American-style aircraft carrier, but it doesn't have the speed. So, but it, then the pilot kicks the motor in hard and it goes up, It works. It works. It's a cheaper way of getting there, but it does work. Now, they have other vessels that are converted commercial vessels that can carry large amounts of drones. Now, some of these drones, they need the ramp for, and other drones, they just take off. Suicide drones of a smaller nature. So they're going to try to get these container ships as close as they can to Diego Garcia and the American warships, and possibly American bases in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Rest assured, Iraq and Yemen will attack these American bases as well if they're still around in the game. So we're not done yet. Now come the submarines. They have their own submarines, which are small. Now, before you laugh about small submarines, you need to understand that they're harder to detect. Next, they do not have nuclear-powered submarines. They have diesel-powered submarines, which are quieter than nuclear and hard to detect. The submarines fire torpedoes. They're small. They might have, 4 torpedo tubes or 2, and then they got a few extra torpedoes, but they probably max out at 6 or 8 torpedoes. But that's still a lot of firepower, and they're hard to detect. But they also have submarines from North Korea that are small and diesel and hard to detect, but they're much better than what the Iranians had. But we don't know how really effective they are because they're not really battle proven. And the Iranians have the capability of laying nautical or naval mines, MINES. So there's all different kinds. There's some that work by contact; those are the least effective. There's others that they use with an anchor, and it goes under the water, and it has a battery. I don't know how long the battery lasts, maybe 3 months, a month. I don't know. It could have a battery, a big battery, the size of maybe, 8 car batteries or something like that. And it uh, looks for magnetic signature of the ship. So when the ship passes over it, and the magnetic signal is right, the mine detonates from below the surface. And if you talking about, big explosion, 1,000, 2,000 pounds of explosive, it would project a mass amount of force against the hull of the boat that they're targeting, and you can split the boat. The hull it throws the boat up, and the hull can break. Now, breaking an aircraft carrier hull would be quite a feat, but again, it depends how close the boat is to the mine when it goes off and the size of the mine. So they would try to lay mines to keep the American warships in a narrow area so they could attack them. Now, the Americans, have mine ships that get rid of these mines, but that takes time. And once they've restricted the American warships into a specific area, they could have a free-for-all throwing all their hybrid weapons at it to try to hurt the ships. If they can take out an aircraft carrier, it would be great inspiration for their followers that Iran is so powerful. The big problem Iran has is they don't have defenses against American aircraft, not just stealth aircraft, the other aircraft. And America will take their radar out, their over-the-horizon radar, and they'll start attacking their warships as well from the air. And that's going to be the problem that Iran is going to face. Remember, America, not being stupid when it comes to war, has a lot of aircraft on the ground. They have a lot of Navy vessels, but they got aircraft on the ground, not just on the Navy aircraft carriers. So even if a carrier gets disabled and can't launch or retrieve aircraft, it doesn't mean that America's out of the fight, not even close. The Americans and everybody else in the world has not had any real experience fighting a naval battle with the weapons that Iran has. So this is a first off. I think that America will prevail, but I also think America is going to take some hits. Let me check the live stream and see if there's questions, because I try to answer questions, and we'll pick this up in a minute. Let me get to where. Olive Vita olive oil. Well, we have our own olive tree that's very, very old in our backyard that produces a lot of olives, and we have them canned. So I could eat those. Eating the olive itself is the best way to get olive oil. You got to eat about 18 of these. We don't have great huge ones. You need about 18 of them. So it's a little annoying to sit there and say, well, I'm going to go eat 18 olives. So that's why I got the capsules. Our stuff is organic. We grow about 40 things on the property, and it's all organic. What's the process of owning a firearm there? Well, you need you're probably not going to get one unless you work or travel in the West Bank, and then you get it easy steezy. You have to go apply, get fingerprinted, get a psychologist evaluation, attend a class, which is most of the day, to prove you can shoot, and then you get the permission to buy the gun. If you have the legal right to buy the gun, you can carry it exposed. In other words, you could just strap it externally, or you could carry it concealed. We don't have permits for CCW. If you could own the gun, you can carry it any way you want. Certain places you go in, like a courthouse, a government building, there's highly trained security guards, often with tabor, which is a 223 bullpup, 12-inch barrel cold hammer forged. It's a super duper gun. Even with the short barrel, it produces the velocity of a 16-inch barrel. And it's a great gun, but it's hard as heck to get them as a civilian. You have to work doing security for the government, and then I'm not even sure they let you take it home. I don't know I don't know the details on that. Pistols you can get this way. It's a pain in the neck. Netanyahu is anti-gun, and he tries to make it very difficult to get the guns. Other aspects of the government are trying to make it easier and easier. And there's an ongoing fight, and Netanyahu usually makes it a problem. You can go to the range and shoot all the ammo you want at the range, but you're only allowed to have, I think, 3 boxes of ammo, 350-round boxes of ammo for your gun. It's very difficult to get more than one gun. And normally what the people get here is a 9mm pistol, and Glock is popular, Israeli military industries. You could get Sig Sauer. They got a full gamut. They're very, very expensive. They're probably double what they are in America. And most of the people don't understand firearms the way Americans do. When I was living in America, I must have had, at any given time, a low of 4 or 5 guns to a high of 40, and I would usually keep thousands and thousands of rounds of ammo, and I had shotguns, assault weapons, and pistols. I had 223 pistols. I had everything. You don't see that stuff here. I've never seen a shotgun in Israel other than shotguns mounted in robots to disable bombs. Many, many years ago, I was what you would call, it doesn't translate well, a reserve cop. And I had full powers 24/7. I bore arms. I personally had an M1 carbine that they issued. It was a police gun. And I really liked it. I had a club, right? A good club. It had a metal plate on the end of the butt. I had a nice club. I had a 10-round clip, full metal jacket in the gun. And I had a canvas bandolier that would wrap around the stock, the butt, that had 2 extra 10-round clips. So I was rather comfortable with 30 rounds. And most of the cars in Israel are small cars like Fiat, Citroen. And this thing would slice through a car, no problem. 110 grains at, I believe it was 1900 feet per second. It's going to go right through a car. It's also going to go through the regular bulletproof vest, right through it, And I liked it. At 100 yards, I had no trouble. If I really would need a steady rest at 100 yards, but why the heck am I shooting anybody at 100 yards anyway? But if you're talking, uh, the 21-foot rule, 7 yards or something, it would be easy to get a hit. It wasn't full auto; it was semi. Boom, boom, 2 hits, and who's going to be standing? One hit, maybe. 2 hits, yeah. So they buy full metal jacket bullets for the 9mm in Israel, and when they shoot terrorist civilians, they usually got to pump a few rounds in them. They haven't figured out that there is much better ammo for the 9mm that makes the 9mm effective. In full metal jacket form, the 9mm, in my opinion, is an inadequate weapon. And in my opinion, relying on, you know, like Corbin or some of the other Underwood or whatever their name, the Hornadays, that the highly specialized ammo is not a great idea. So I would be more interested in a 45 ACP or a 10mm than I would, the 9mm. Right, 9mm full metal jacket is not a good round. They also don't carry around in the chamber. Okay, cocked and locked is, unheard of. Do you go to jail for having a round in the chamber? No. But you'll get, if people realize you did that, they're going to really chastise you. You're going to, yeah, it's very unacceptable here. So that puts another, if you're highly trained, like you're in Mossad or Shin Bet, it's going to put a second or a second and a half on your time to fire from draw, which is very dangerous. If a guy's running at you with a knife, it's extremely dangerous. But that's how they do it. And you can't talk to them. They don't want to hear it. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. If you live in a settlement in a high risk area, like in the West Bank, the facility usually has an arsenal. Now, these weapons are owned by the government, they're not owned by the people, and they're typically full auto assault rifles from the military that are good. And you're usually going to have a 40-round clip and 2 more with it, or 1 more is minimum. And when you go on guard duty, which the civilians on these settlements have to do, you'll draw one of these from the arsenal while you're on patrol. You can often take your own dog with you when you're on patrol, but the dog has to be intelligent. You don't want the dog running around barking his head off all the time. And if you want to throw the dog on somebody that jumps the fence and comes into the settlement, that's perfectly okay. And if you have your own personal pistol that you bought and got papers for, which is extremely easy to do if you live in these areas, you can carry your own pistol and the assault weapon. Uzis you don't see anymore. 25, 30 years ago, you saw a lot of Uzis. They were the great big Uzis. You don't see them anymore. They were quite old. They had another kind of assault weapon. I could think of the name if I think about it. It wasn't a great assault weapon. The sand didn't work well with it, I think. And then they have M16s. There's a lot of M16s floating around. The weapon of choice is the Tabor, which is the bullpup with the short barrel. It's full auto. It's a great gun. I mean, it's a superb gun. It's a super duper gun, actually. And you do see those, like if you go to the hospital, the security guards at the hospital carry those. If you go to a checkpoint, there's private security guys, they carry those. Usually it's two clips. You have one clip in the gun and you have a metal attachment that has another clip pointing down. So the clip up in the gun and then one going down. And they're usually 30 or 40 rounds. So you got quite a bit of ammo. For civilian use. This is not in a war zone. This is like guarding facilities, It's a great gun. I mean, it's as good as you're ever going to need a gun. Okay, so I probably over-answered your question. We manage to stop hypersonic missiles all the time. The Houthis in Yemen have those, and we knock them down with great consistency. Yeah, when China, North Korea, okay, what I think you're going to see when America gets embedded in the Middle East, which is probably going to happen after Saturday, Russia's going to expand its attacks in Europe, not just Ukraine. Poland would be the desirable first hit, in my opinion, then Romania. The Baltic may get hit simultaneously as well, probably by Russian warships and aircraft, not ground troops. And China will hit Taiwan, try to invade it and capture the manufacturing facilities intact. But Taiwan has planted explosives in there and they plan on evacuating the factories and detonating them if it looks like China's going to get them. And China is conducting military exercises, I think, at the current time around Taiwan with 20 warships, including an aircraft carrier. And they're basically running a blockade on Taiwan, but calling it a military exercise. I don't think it has stopped. North Korea will start attacking South Korea. Japan will get dragged in. Philippines, back burner, but it'll probably get dragged in. And that's going to drag America out too much, and then add in the sleeper agents inside America that came in with Biden's open border, and America is likely not going to make it. The GPS is down in Iran. We turn our GPS off. I mean, during the earlier months of the war, for like over a year, in Haifa, we couldn't get GPS. You turned the GPS on in Haifa, and it told you were in Lebanon. So they rigged the GPS to give false readings. We're in the north, Haifa's in the north. So Hezbollah in Lebanon, if they were trying to use GPS, they would think they're attacking their own country. Funny, isn't it? But it was like that for many months. So Iran screwed up their own GPS. But do you really think the Americans rely on Iranian GPS to attack? I don't. Not at all. Are they able to screw the American GPS up? I doubt it. It's possible, but I don't know. The S-500s are, as far as I know, they're only inside Russia. Russia's not selling those. We don't know how good or bad they are. Israel can dance around the S-300 and the S-400 systems that Iran has with the F-35s, hands down. They can't find them. Oh, I'm talking to a sailor. Good. I'm not much of a sailor. I know how to be a passenger on cruise ships pretty good. That's about it. I don't censor normally unless people talk really ugly, but there is a word filter. If they're using obscene language, it'll filter it. Rail guns, I don't believe Iran has rail guns. I don't know, but I never heard it. My understanding with the stealth planes is that the radar can pick up the F-35, but it has a 25-mile diameter where it knows the plane is in that 25-mile diameter. But that is far from accurate enough to launch missiles and hit it. In baby talk, that's my understanding of what happens. Russian robots, well, I don't know what they're going to do with Russian robots, but I don't know what you're telling me I'm delusional about. Well, the other thing I should tell you about weapons is soldiers carry their weapons when they're off the base. So if you walk into a bank, you're liable to see 5 or 10 soldiers in uniform in the bank carrying an assault weapon, getting money out of the bank or something like that. Okay. So there's a lot of off the base soldiers carrying assault weapons here. All right. Netanyahu is the jackass with the gun control. Netanyahu is what caused October 7th in many ways. One way was he stopped the people from living near Gaza from having weapons. This jackass has been prime minister for over 20 years, and he is a nightmare. And if they had the weapons they used to have before this moron Netanyahu came to office, they would have been shooting their pistols at the invaders on October 7th and repelled them. Jackass stripped them of their weapons. It's like giving speeding tickets out at the drag strip on Saturday. He's an idiot. He's such an idiot, this guy. So I do believe that America will clobber Iran and devastate the whole country, fulfilling the prophecy in Jeremiah 49, which I'll read to you. And this is one of the prophecies that the churches failed to teach, although I have heard some of the church gurus, if you want to call them that, I guess loosely, run around and talk about this. Jeremiah shows us the destruction of many countries, and I think it's worthwhile to go through the chapter, although it's not a small chapter. We'll start in verse 1, Jeremiah 49, concerning the Ammonites. Now, the Ammonites, what is Ammon? It's part of Jordan in the north. The capital of Jordan is called Ammon, and that's where, in the old days, this biblical country is. Jordan is not a biblical name. Jordan today consists of Ammon, the north, and Moab, central and south Jordan. Okay? Concerning the Ammonites, thus saith Jehovah, hath Israel no sons, hath he no heir? Why then doth their king inherit Gad, and his people dwell in his cities? He's saying Jordan is dwelling in the land that he gave to Israel, which takes you back to Genesis 15, where the land given by covenant from Jehovah to Israel is from the Euphrates to the Nile, which is about 100 times bigger than what we have today. This piece of land covers Turkey from the Euphrates River going west. It's about 2/3 of Turkey. Notice Turkey is starting to move against Israel. They've sent columns of armored vehicles and other vehicles into central Syria, and they're starting to occupy abandoned bases from when Bashar Assad pulled out of Syria. And it's a definite threat to Israel, and there's probably going to be a shooting war with Turkey inside Syria rather soon. Trump did tell Netanyahu that he would take care of the problem. He gets along with Erdogan and he'll calm things down. I don't think so, based on prophecy. So Turkey's in this thing. Lebanon becomes Israel. This is the land that Israel gets, its inheritance. Then shifting back to the west of the Euphrates River, Syria and Iraq. Then it also includes Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen is not Yemen biblically, it's Edom, Edom. Okay? Then going across the Red Sea to Africa, you have Egypt to the east, or the right hand, if you're looking at a map, the east of the Nile, Sudan and South Sudan, east of the Nile, Somalia, Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, parts of Uganda and Kenya. The Nile goes all the way down to Lake Victoria. And the Egyptians built that up all the way down to Lake Victoria in the old days, okay? So you add that land up and you're someplace like 100 times bigger than the Israel of today. So when you get to Gog and Magog, the Ammonites are no longer dwelling in the land of Israel. So this is not a Gog and Magog thing. It happens before. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will cause an alarm of war to be heard in Rabbah of the Ammonites. Again, we're back in Jordan. And it shall be a desolate heap. Well, where's my place now? It shall be a desolate heap. That's a garbage dump, you could say. And her daughters shall be burned with fire. Then shall Israel be heir unto them that were his heirs, saith Jehovah. What it's saying in more better English, Hebrew doesn't translate to English that well, by the way. What it's saying here is that Israel will inherit the land that's there that Jehovah gave to us by covenant. Now I'm in verse 3. Howl, O Heshbon, for Ai is spoiled. These are old ancient cities. You daughter of Rabbah, gird you with sackcloth and lament and run to and fro by the hedges, for their king shall go into captivity, and his priests and his princes together. That you're back in Jordan. Wherefore glorious thou in the valleys, thy flowing valleys, O backsliding daughter, that trusted in her treasures, oil, saying, who shall come unto me? King David, well, that's another story. But let me just keep going. Behold, I will bring a fear upon thee. Jordan is a very weak country today. The king of Jordan is a schmuck. His father was a cruel dictating leader of the country, and he grew up with a platinum spoon in his mouth, and he's an idiot, and he's weak, and the country's divided, and he's got 11 million pro-Palestinian people in his country, and they keep trying to hit the border and come into Israel. And he's trying to be an ally of America, and he's going to help America in this war, making himself an enemy of Iran and Iraq and Yemen. He's not in good shape, and he stands to be overthrown. He's very weak, okay? Behold, I will bring, we did that one. No, let's read it. It's verse 5. Behold, I will bring a fear upon thee, saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah. I think the fear's already there. Saith Adonai Jehovah of armies. Hosts means armies. From all those that be about thee, around thee. So the fear is from those that are surrounding him. And that's already in place. I just read you a list, 3 of them. And you shall be driven out, every man right forth, and none shall gather up him that wandereth. Okay, so that means they're going to be having to leave their country. And afterward I will bring again the captivity of the children of Ammon, saith Jehovah. Actually, in the next war, which is in Zechariah 12, the siege, the Ammonite people make peace with Israel and flourish. Israel becomes friends with them. Concerning Edom, and that is Yemen, folks. Thus saith, now learn, because the news, and people in the military and the reports, but that it's the prophecy that tells you what's going to happen. It's never wrong. Concerning Edom, thus saith Jehovah of armies, Is wisdom no more in Taman? Taman is another name for Yemen. It means south, in the south. Israelis refer to Yemen frequently as Taman, basing it from the Bible. They don't call it Edom because the rabbis don't tell them to, and people wouldn't understand what they meant, outside of Israel anyway. Wisdom no more in Taman. Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Well, obviously the Houthis are operating without wisdom, right? They're so crazy drinking the cup of the wrath of the Lord, and they're having delusions. The Lord's sending them delusions. They're believing their own lies, apparently. And they keep constantly trying to attack the American warships. And for a good 3 weeks, they've been getting pounded day in and day out. Eventually, their missile launching capability will stop. That won't stop their ability to cut the internet cables, will it? No. And there's a lot of cables that go right by Yemen. And they cut 2 or 3 of them many months ago, and probably they've been repaired. And they'll do that again, I'm pretty sure. I can't give you a written guarantee. I think they will. But let's keep reading, because they're obviously they're behaving like somebody that needs to be in a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane, aren't they? Flee you, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitant of Dedan. Now, Dedan is Saudi Arabia, so they're going to get it too. O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. Saudi Arabia is an enemy of Jehovah. You're crazy if you think that they're not. And they're going to get it, okay? Flee you, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon thee, the time that I will visit him. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? That's leaving grapes on the edges of the orchard. If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. Then they quit. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places. He shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. Leave thy fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. So the orphans and the widows are going to make it out of there. For thus saith Jehovah out of Dedan, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. That's the cup of the wrath of the Lord. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith Jehovah, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. I have heard a rumor from Jehovah, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather you together and come against her, and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the goyim, the heathen, and despised among men. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thy heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hills, Though thou should make thy nest high as the eagle and bring it down, I will bring thee down from thence, saith Jehovah. Also Edom, Yemen, shall be a desolation. Every one that goeth by it shall be astonished and shall hiss. I think with the hiss is a whistle, like something like that. Or it could be shh. You could sit there and say, well, shh, you got the idea. At all the plagues thereof. Plagues is a word that really is translated not so great. It means a hit, like a hit. The plagues in Egypt is really better understood in the word hit. Okay, makes sense when you think about it. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities, therefore saith Jehovah, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the habitation of the strong, but I will suddenly make him run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time, and who is that shepherd that will stand before me? He's either talking about one of the two witnesses or Yeshua. Therefore, here, the strong would be Israel, I believe. Therefore, hear post-redemption. Therefore, hear the counsel of Jehovah that hath taken against Edom, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Again, that's Edom. Surely, the word Yemen does not appear anywhere in the Bible. It's not a biblical word. Yemen doesn't show up, okay? Just like Jordan doesn't show up. Lebanon does show up. Syria shows up. Saudi Arabia doesn't show up. The name Iran does not show up in the Bible. Okay. Persia does. But that's probably the Persian Empire. Okay, but it would include Iran. But anyway, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. The least of the flock is Israel. But let's keep going. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall, Yemen. Now you're going to be thinking, oh, America's going to drop the Moab bombs. Let me finish. The earth shall be moved at the noise of their fall. The cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. So, obviously it's Yemen now, right? Behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle and spread his wings over Bozrah. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom, that's Yemen, be as the heart of a woman in her pangs, her birth pangs. So that has not happened yet. These idiots are still gung-ho. All right? Concerning them, it's Israel that actually takes out Yemen. But let me keep going. Concerning Damascus and Hamat, that now we're in Syria, is confounded and Arpad, for they have heard evil tidings, they are faint-hearted. There is sorrow on the sea. It cannot be quiet. Damascus, they're on the Sea of Galilee, Syria. Damascus is waxed feeble and turned herself to flee, and fear hath seized on her anguish, and sorrow has taken her as a woman in travail. Well, this already happened in recent weeks. Damascus, Syria, is waxed feeble. They're real feeble right now. We attack them every day, knocking out old fortifications and things like that pertaining to Bashar Assad's army, and turned herself to flee. They fled. Bashar Assad and his bosses and soldiers. And fear has seized on her, anguish and sorrow. They're being persecuted. The Alawites, the Bashar Assad regime, they're being killed in the streets. Christians are being persecuted too, not as severely. Has seized on her. Anguish and sorrow have taken her as a woman in travail. How is the city of praise? That's because King David ruled out of Damascus in the past. How is the city of praise not left, the city of my joy? Therefore, her young men shall fall in her streets. It's really happened so far. It's probably not in the fullness yet. And all the men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts. That's probably the day of vengeance, and they're not all yet cut off. And I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus, and it shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. Ben-Hadad is like code name or means like one of the demonic leaders or something like that. Concerning Kedar and concerning the kingdom of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, shall smite, thus saith Jehovah, arise, go up to Qatar, and spoil the men of the east. So let's take a look and see what Qatar is. Let's start with Hazar. Okay, so Hazar is Strong's 2674. This is really in Israel, I believe. Well, there's one in Arabia. So there's one in Arabia. It's probably Saudi Arabia there. Let's check Kedar. Oh, let's just look it up so I get it sure. Hang on a second. They're giving me the part of it. It's in Israel. Hold on. I want to get the Kedar in Arabia, not the one in Israel. That's not Israel. There's two Kedars in Israel. It's in northwest Saudi Arabia, which would put it near Israel. Okay. So the Saudis are going to get it. All right, let's get back in here. Then we're in verse 29 of Jeremiah 49. Their tents and their flocks shall they take away. They shall take to themselves the curtains and all their vessels and their camels, and they shall cry unto them, fear is on every side. This is, I believe, us pillaging the Saudis. They race camels there. Camels run faster than quarter horses at a bigger distance. And they got real expensive camels. Flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O you inhabitants of Hazor, saith. So they're going to leave their country just like they want Israel to leave Israel. Saith the Lord, for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, hath taken counsel against you and hath conceived a purpose against you. This has not happened yet. It's not the old Nebuchadnezzar. The problem that people don't understand is in Jeremiah 50:51, there's a scripture there that says, this Nebuchadnezzar. So there's a modern day person like Nebuchadnezzar, think Donald Trump. And this is the one that is going to go after Saudi Arabia. So maybe they loot them, or maybe Israel goes with them and loots them. So the Saudis are trying to walk on both sides of the fence now. They're trying to play nice to Trump, and they were trading oil not in the US dollar or the euro. I think they still are. And they're afraid of Iran and Yemen and, and Iraq, and, they don't know what they want to do. So they're going to obviously get Trump real mad, which means they're going to do something bad to America. Okay? That's what it's going to take to get Trump that angry. Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation, that sure sounds like Saudi Arabia, that dwelleth without care, Saudi Arabia, saith Jehovah, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwell alone. That's them. They don't put walls up and stuff like that. They're in the past, they were very content to have America be their enforcer and protector. And their camels shall be a booty, and the multitude of their cattle a spoil. Now, they go out and buy Brahmin bulls for millions of dollars and stuff like this. You got to understand that stuff. They hunt with predatory birds also, falcons and stuff like that. And I will scatter into all winds them that are in the utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides. They're going to get hit. Thereof saith Jehovah. And Hazor shall be a dwelling for dragons. Those are, big lizards and like Komodo dragon kind of things, maybe smaller ones too. And a desolation forever. There shall no man abide there, nor any son of man dwell in it. So that's our land. We'll get that, but we're not going to live in it. Yemen and Saudi Arabia, nobody's going to live in anymore. The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah. Now, parts of Saudi Arabia may go to Israel because the modern day land divisions don't follow Bible, Now I'm in verse 34. The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam. Now, Elam is Iran. There is no word Iran appearing in the Bible, Old or New Testament, so it's Elam. And Elam also, according to a lot of historical cartographers, would include pieces of Iraq and Syria, and it's not very hard to imagine how that fits in today, is it? Iraq is their proxy. Against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. This is when he was given the prophecy. It's not for that time. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Now, what is the main strength of Elam? Missiles, Iran. And what a missile is, it's another form of an arrow. It's a great big arrow, right? And what is a bow in the form of a missile? It's the missile launcher. You could have 25 million missiles, but if you only got 500 missile launchers, it's not very good. The missile launcher is the key. It's like, what good does a quill of arrows do you if you don't have a bow? You understand? So this is old days talk describing what's going to go on in the future today, our day. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall come. So they're going to be scattered into every nation in the world, the Iranians and probably Iraqi, and could be there's some from Syria too. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies. So Elam has multiple enemies. So today, who would be in the attack against Elam so far? Well, Elam or Iran considers all the countries helping America to be their enemies and says they will attack them, the American bases and the oil refineries. That would be Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. And I think that wraps it up. And do you think they're not going to turn against Iran collectively when Iran starts firing missiles into their country? Of course they will. There'll be multiple enemies wanting to get rid of this Iran. Or maybe it's just the UAE, America, Israel, but the Taliban in Afghanistan the other day let America have back the Bagram Air Force Base, which is 450 to 500 miles from the border with Iran. And America's already started moving cargo planes in there, and they say the assistant director of the CIA went there to look it over. So Trump probably made a deal with the Taliban to let them keep Joe Biden left behind weapons, and they let them use the Bagram Air Force Base. This is going to make the Taliban in Afghanistan get attacked by Iran, which they would welcome because they hate Iran and would love to invade Iran. So there's likely another enemy there. Then we got to worry about Pakistan because they're on the side of Iran more or less, and they don't like the Taliban. And the Pakistanis are a sleeping enemy of India. So this thing has a lot of moving parts. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies. Now, it might just be America, Israel, and the UAE, and I'm pretty sure the Taliban before their enemies, but it gives you the idea that they're going to have a lot of people coming after them. And before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. So that's pretty dismal for the Iranian people. And I will set my throne in Elam. That doesn't mean he's going to rule out of Elam. It means he's going to judge them, the judgment seat in Elam, in Iran. He's going to judge them. He's not going to really go down there. You know, it's a figure of speech. And will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith Jehovah. But It shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. They come back at the end of Daniel 9:24, second 70, and they're called Persia in Daniel. And that's what would be the Persian Empire, which should include Iran. So we don't read that Iran becomes a devastated wasteland, never to be populated. Okay, let me take a look at the live stream, see what I can do for questions. Remember World War II, quantity over quality. Russia versus Nazi Germany, I guess. So I know the churches, for the most part, don't teach Jeremiah 49, but there it is, right there in your Bible. And you want to ignore it. The next war is Zechariah 12, where there's a siege around Judah and Jerusalem. And that's already started. You got Lebanon with the Hezbollah. You got, it's well on its way, actually. You got Hamas in Gaza. They're still not gone. Yesterday they shot 10 missiles. None hit. You got Yemen. They're shooting drones and missiles at us. It's Edom. You've got Saudi is not shooting at us. Jordan is not shooting at us. Iraq is not shooting at us, but there are enemies to come. And Turkey's moving troops into Syria, and you got Iran firing at us. So the pieces of the puzzle that are still missing is Turkey, but they're not missing so much anymore, moving military into central Syria and backing up the HTS government there, which is Al Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job. Okay. Jordan got to get into it, and Saudi Arabia, and the Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. They're probably not going to do much about us. I don't know. I don't think they will. So that's your Zechariah 12 siege, okay? And when you read Zechariah 12:6, the two witnesses burn up the enemies surrounding Israel, all around Israel. I'll just read it to you. I don't want to dwell on doing all these prophecies because it just takes so much time, and then it becomes so much longer, the live stream. I'll read you Zechariah 12:6, and if you're interested, you'll read the whole Zechariah 12, and you should read it with Zechariah 13 too. Zechariah 12:6. In that day will I make the governors, it really should say judges, the judges of Judah, like an earth of fire among the wood, like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, inhabited in her own place. Okay, that's what it says. So if that's not the two witnesses with fire coming out of their mouth, I don't know who it is. Okay, the word correctly translated would probably say judges. And the two witnesses are the judges of Israel, and they're also prophets, as so stated in Revelation 11, judges of prophets. So that's who it is. And people don't want to pay attention to that. What the people do is they get hung up on Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38:39. In Ezekiel 38, it says that we're living without bars and walls, with no fear, at rest, with cattle and gold and silver and great riches. And obviously that's not the Israel today. And the way they clean that up is they say, well, the man of sin is going to talk peace, and then Israel's going to get rich. And then in the middle of 7 years, Israel's going to be betrayed, and then Gog and Magog happens. It's nonsense. It does happen, but it's a falling away, okay? And it's not the church falling away, it's Israel falling away. And that hasn't happened because Israel hasn't come in yet. How the heck is it going to fall away? What they don't teach you is to read Ezekiel 8-11, which is the same events as Gog and Magog. Read the whole book of Joel, which is the same events as Gog and Magog, and read Zechariah 14, which is also Gog and Magog. The day of vengeance is not the great day of the Lord. Gog and Magog is referred to as the great day of the Lord. There's also the day of vengeance. In Isaiah 34, verse 8, what you read is not taught by the church. Yet, it's right there in the scriptures. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance. How about that? There really is a day of vengeance. And the year of recompenses, payback, for the controversy of Zion. Why is this year of recompenses there? To pay back over Zion. Controversy means the strife for the fighting over Zion. They don't want us in the land. They want us out. They want it to be a Palestinian state worshiping other gods. You shall have no other gods before you. That's ridiculous. Did Trump say we're going to take Gaza back and give it to Israel? Or did he say we'll get Gaza and I'll make a resort out of it? Huh? You think that sits well with Jehovah? I don't. You ever hear any country in the world telling these Arab states they better give Israel their land back or they'll be destroyed? Nope, never heard that. Does the Church of Satan, the Catholic Church, the Buddhist Church, the Hindu Church, the Muslim Church have the same rights as the so-called Christian churches in America? You bet. You shall have no other gods before ye. You see a problem there? You should, because there's a big one. Unless you disregard the Bible and then you just, when the end hits, you'll just cave in. That's it. They don't understand who the glorious God of Israel is. In Ezekiel 23, verse 20, God puts his name in this angel. This is the one that was with the children of Israel, Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And his name is Michael. And God put the name Jehovah in him. So sometimes you see him referred to in the text of the prophecies as Jehovah. And why could he not be called Jehovah if Jehovah put his name, which is Jehovah, in him? There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. It doesn't exist. So you can't have the name Jesus or Jehovah. There's no such letter. There's also no TH sound in Hebrew. There's other things that, can't have a J sounding word. Doesn't exist. in Hebrew. Okay, so they just, when you explain to them what's going on with Ezekiel 38 and 39, they just say, oh, it didn't happen yet. You know, they don't understand in Malachi 3, the temple is there and Elijah's training the Levites, and it's before Ezekiel 38, 39. It's even before Zechariah 12. In other words, it'll happen any day. When you read Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses, it explains plain that God places or puts the next temple in the midst of Israel. The midst is Jerusalem. It says he places or puts it here. It comes down from heaven. The Jews have known this for a long time. That's why they're not building another temple. The Orthodox Jews know this. That's why they laugh at the churches. They don't know who the Messiah is. They don't know who Yeshua is, but the churches don't understand the next temple. They say, you're the temple. The person is, well, you're the temple of the Holy Spirit. That's what the scripture says. You're not a temple with an altar. Where you're going to have an altar built on your stomach and lay down and let them sacrifice food on your altar? It's ridiculous. They teach the law is dead, Matthew 5:17. What did Yeshua say? Think not that I came to destroy the law or the prophets, but I came to fulfill. They don't read any further. They say, see, he fulfilled it. The next verse, Matthew 5:18, says, for as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be destroyed from the law. The next verse, Matthew 5:19, says, the one that breaks the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of God, but the one that does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of God. Now, if they break one of the least commandments, they're called least in the kingdom of heaven. Now, what if they break all 360 like the churches teach? What does that leave them? Not in the kingdom of heaven, as far as I can see. They teach this. So they keep getting stuck. Anything the churches can get the followers in the churches to believe that nothing bad's going to happen to them today is they sell it and the church people buy it. They're very, very wrong. It is the daughter of Babylon. People have been saying this since around 2008. I believe it started getting talked up on the internet. I don't see any single church, social media, or any heavy churchianity-oriented ministry ever teach that it's the daughter of Babylon. There's many teachers on the internet that do teach this, but they're not in the churches. They will never teach this to the people, yet it is the daughter of Babylon, and its days are closing. Trump said there could be, before he won the election, there could be up to 30 million illegals in the United States. A high-ranking Border Patrol person from Texas who retired says 60% are single males, military age, not coming in with a family or anything, and that points to sleeper agents. So that 60% would give you 18 million sleeper agents. Let's cut it in half, 9 million sleeper agents. Let's just cut it in half again, 4.5 million sleeper agents. You see the threat? When Iran unleashes, North Korea unleashes, China unleashes, Russia unleashes, Venezuela and Cuba will unleash, and Belarus will unleash, and Armenia and Azerbaijan probably, and some of the stand nations affiliated with Russia or friendly with Russia with treaties will unleash. At the same time, America's going to be attacked, probably with missiles initially. And then God says America's in a snare. Jeremiah 50, verse 24. God, Jehovah, put America in the snare. Okay? So they keep covering it up. They don't talk about the year of redemption. Isaiah 63, verse 4. And that's associated with the day of vengeance too. So the day of vengeance, probably the last day of recompense this year, but because you hear it right with the redemption, I assume that the year of redemption is, my assumption is, begins on the day of vengeance, at the close of it, with the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. Matthew 24:30, Revelation 1:7, every eye shall see him. John 6:40, those that believe, that look on him shall have everlasting life. They never teach this. Zechariah 12:10, God pours his spirit out on the house of David and those in Jerusalem, and then they look upon the one whom they have pierced, which is Yeshua. And because the spirit was poured out on them first, they would have everlasting life because they were believers from the outpouring of the Spirit. The 10 tribes will wake up, and all the true believers in Yeshua, you can forget church membership as being a sign of a true believer. The true believers in Yeshua will be in that second Exodus also and be absorbed into the tribes of Israel. You see that in Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, very plain, and they become treated as if they were native-born Israelites, and they get an inheritance in the land. They get a piece of the land just like a native-born Israelite, and they become merged into the tribes, the tribe they were with. And then when you talk about New Jerusalem in Revelation 21, New Jerusalem is got 12 gates, each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel, and it's guarded by an angel. So to get into New Jerusalem, you go into the gate of your lineage, which the believers that are not of Israelite heritage will be merged into in Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, and they will go into the gate of the tribe they were merged into, because now they are members of that tribe, and thus all Israel shall be saved, is coming to bear. There is no gate for Baptists and Lutherans and Assemblies of God and all that stuff, but they'll never teach you any of this, never, ever. The church is about to fall apart when they realize what's going on with the daughter of Babylon and with Israel and everlasting life. They're going to fall apart. There ain't going to be churches anymore. They're going to realize they were lied to, and this could be days away, hours away, maybe a few weeks away. It's not going to be around anymore. These are the last days of churchianity. You got to, and people reject this, and they have very skillfully manipulated, everything to believe in Gog and Magog, where Israel gets decimated and America just marches on. No, this is it. This is the end of America. Okay? This is it. Will Iran get flattened? Yes. Will China, North Korea, and Russia also unload? It's their golden moment. I think they will. They'll win with the help of the sleeper agents, which are going to hit the American bases. And God's against America. He says in Jeremiah 50:51, I will kindle fires in or about your cities. It's going to burn the place up. That's how it really goes. Yet they keep talking about Gog and Magog, and a lot of them believe they're going to get a rapture before that. And after that, they're going to come down and reign over Israel as gods, even though there's no scripture for it. Yeshua said he will reign over the heathen with a rod of iron. He never said he's going to reign over the Jews with the church with a rod of iron. But what about them in their rapture? Do they contradict Yeshua on the rapture? What do you think? Of course they do. Does that stop these people from believing falsely? No. John 6:40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth in him may have everlasting life. I told you that. And I will raise him up at the last day. Everybody goes up on the same day, the last day, which means there's no more days, which means it's the millennium is over. Revelation 20, Satan's released, gathers them as the sand of the sea. They surround Jerusalem, New Jerusalem. Father God Jehovah comes down from heaven, burns them up. The whole universe gets burned up. There's nothing left to stand on. So we meet them in the air and go up on clouds of heaven to spend eternity with our Heavenly Father, Jehovah and Yeshua. Now, John 6:39 says it again. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that of all which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. So all that the Father gave him, he doesn't lose. But he raises all of them up on the same day, the last day. There's no pre-trib rapture. There's no mid-trib rapture. There's no post-trib rapture. Everybody goes up on the same day. There's no left behind rapture. They're teaching you pure manure that contradicts the words of Yeshua. And I teach this and people reject me. But are they rejecting me? No, they're rejecting the word of God. Who is Yeshua, the word made flesh? You're rejecting Yeshua, not me. Yeshua says, if you reject knowledge, I will reject you. They're not rejecting me, they're rejecting the word of God. They don't care about the word of God. They care about their church. They want to have friends in the church, family in the church. They want to make believe they're so holy. It's insane. It really is. And that's what they teach. And that's why you have so much trouble moving them off of Gog and Magog. They don't want to budge. They don't budge. It's unbelievable. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the way, and few be to find it. You try talking like that to them, and they reject you. They still want to believe they can go to churches on Sunday morning with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people showing up. It's unbelievable. But it's believable. And they're all stuck on Gog and Magog. They won't get unstuck. Unbelievable. You see, they don't want to believe the truth. They want to believe the tickling ears doctrines. That's the problem. They don't care about the truth. I think they're rejecting me, but how can they be rejecting me when I'm reading them the scriptures and they fail to believe the scriptures? How does that work? I don't know how that works. I don't think it works. See, I run these, teachings, and I cover the wars, and I get into what they call intel about the war. And a lot of people like that, but then when you start teaching them Bible prophecies, they run away. They don't want to believe that God is in control. They don't want to follow the scriptures. They want to do what they want to do. And they love the idea of fighting. When you explain to them that God says he's going to kindle fires in and around their cities, they don't go out and buy 25 fire extinguishers. They keep buying guns and bullets and preps and all that stuff. They're wrong, but they won't believe they're wrong because they won't believe the Bible. Okay? Not very many are. Jeremiah 30, verse 11 is one they never teach, none of them. I never hear any of them teach this. And you can't put it into Gog and Magog. It doesn't fit. Jeremiah 30, 11. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee, to salvation thee, Yashab thee. Okay, this is obviously before Israel is redeemed. Now, for I am with thee to save thee, I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to salvation thee. Though I make a full end of all heathen nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. He says he's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into. Let's see if this appears in the Bible elsewhere, like in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. Fear thou not, O Jacob or Yaakov, my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all the heathen nations whither I have driven thee, and I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, yet will I. I'm sorry, I skipped the one. Yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. And boy, we've been punished. How long's the war? 17 months. Terrorism, missiles, drones, all this stuff. It's horrible. Okay? He's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Jews into. But we know, without counting lost tribes, there's 6.5 million known Jews in America. So it puts America right in this list. Okay? People don't want to believe it. What can you do? Are they real believers if they reject the scriptures? How could they be? How could they be? Mark 16, verse 17, I think. Mark 16. Maybe it's verse 16. It's verse 16. Mark 16. No, it's 17. Mark 16, 17. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. Well, how many times you hear these people that are all gung-ho on Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38, that ever talk about demon tossing? First of all, let me invite all of you to throw demons out of me. I don't have any demons. I don't care. Please be my guest. You have my permission to throw demons out of me in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, the Lord Jesus Christ, okay? They don't practice it. They don't go throwing demons out of anybody. I would say at least 99.5% or 99.9% of the church never threw a demon out of anybody. Yet it's a sign. that they don't ignore. They don't believe in it. They don't do it. They're afraid to do it. How do the fearful wind up when New Jerusalem comes? Outside of New Jerusalem. The word fearful is there. They're afraid of Satan. They're not overcomers. They're followers. So what's going to happen? Iran's going to get flattened by her enemies. It's going to trigger the wars. They're going to start. The siege is going to complete around Jerusalem. The temple's going to come down from heaven. Elijah's going to appear, train the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. All this is in Malachi 3, and also you see it in 4 with relevance, not direct. It's the events following it, really, but it's worthwhile reading for sure. And then that brings the blessings of the law on Israel, and then the 2 witnesses burn up those in the siege on all sides. And okay, so that's what I got today. I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. And pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. They're all rescues, by the way. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray I get more insights into prophecy and do better videos. Pray that the Lord reveals these things to you if they're true or not. Ask him. Ask him about me. Ask him about what I'm teaching. Go to Jehovah in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and ask him. Please. Those are my references, Yeshua HaMashiach and Father God Jehovah. Ask them about me. Ask them about the prophecies that I'm giving you. Ask them, please, for your own sake. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And for those of you that have been following me this year in Jerusalem, and I still believe wholeheartedly we'll be eating pita bread and falafel before long in the land. And I welcome walking you the 300 yards or so to the Sea of Galilee and showing you the whole Galilee. And you'll see the Golan Heights in Syria and everything. And there's rocks you could sit on and pray, and there's a bench, and you'll have a ball. And I don't know what else to say. So at this point, I will sign off. I hope you got something out of this. Please pray. Read the scriptures every day. Pray every day. Don't stop. And I'm going to sign off. Thank you. Wow, I went 2.5 hours. I try to keep these to an hour and a half.